Why did people seem slimmer in the 1970s without dieting, calorie counting, or fitness apps? The answer isn't what you think. In this eye-opening video, we take a deep dive into everyday life in the 1970s to uncover the real reasons people stayed thin back then. It wasn't about willpower or better genetics. It was about how life was lived. You'll discover how a radically different food environment and daily routine created a lifestyle where staying slim happened naturally. From the way people ate to the way they moved, the 70s fostered habits that are almost unrecognizable today. Let's explore the 50 key points that explain why people were effortlessly thinner and what we can learn from their world. A huge part of the story comes down to what was on the plate. Portion sizes were dramatically smaller than today. A dinner plate looked modest by modern standards, and restaurant servings weren't supersized. Because of this, eating out was rare and considered a special treat, not a weekly or daily occurrence. The default was clear. Home-cooked meals were the norm, not the exception. Families gathered around tables to eat food prepared from scratch, a stark contrast to today's reliance on convenience. This was partly because ultra-processed foods barely existed. The aisles weren't filled with hyper-palatable, chemically engineered products designed for overconsumption. Consequently, sugary snacks were occasional, not constant companions. A cookie or a piece of cake was a special indulgence, not an everyday entitlement. This leads to a fundamental shift in eating patterns. There was number 24/7 snacking culture. The concept of grazing throughout the day was foreign. Instead, people ate 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This structured approach to eating meant that the kitchen effectively closed between meals. Late-night eating was also uncommon. Once dinner was over, the day's eating was typically finished. This rhythm was supported by the lack of convenience foods. If you wanted a snack, you often had to make it yourself, which was a natural deterrent. This meant cooking skills were passed down naturally, with children learning from parents and grandparents as a part of everyday life. Meals were thoughtfully prepared. Breakfast was often a filling and balanced meal designed to fuel the morning. Lunches were packed from home, and dinner was a cherished time, eaten as a family. The way we moved our bodies was also completely different. It started in childhood, where kids played outside for hours every day. Neighborhoods were filled with the sounds of children running, biking, and engaging in imaginative play, until the streetlights came on. This was partly because screen time was almost non-existent. With only a few television channels that signed off at night, there were no tablets, smartphones, or gaming consoles to keep children indoors and sedentary. Adults moved more. Walking was part of daily life. People walked to local shops, to visit neighbors, or to the bus stop. This was reinforced by the fact that fewer people owned cars per household. Often, a family had one car, or none at all, making walking a necessity. This culture of movement extended into the workplace. Jobs involved more physical movement, and manual labor was more common. Even in office settings, tasks required more physical effort before the digital age automated everything. Back at home, household chores required real effort. Without today's advanced appliances, washing clothes, cleaning floors, and maintaining the garden were all physically demanding activities. This constant, low-level activity was woven into the fabric of daily existence. Neighborhoods were often designed to encourage walking, with sidewalks and local amenities within easy reach. As a result, many kids walked to school, getting in daily steps without a second thought. This active lifestyle meant people were burning more calories daily without even realizing it. The food and drink landscape itself was simpler and less commercialized. Fast food was limited and less caloric. A burger and fries from a 1970s chain was a far cry from the colossal, calorie-laden meals offered today. Soft drinks were smaller and less sweet, often served in 6.5 or 8-ounce glass bottles, not giant plastic cups. At home, water was the default drink. It wasn't competing with a dizzying array of sugary juices, sodas, and energy drinks. When sweets were enjoyed, they were often homemade, not factory-produced. This meant ingredients were simpler and less artificial. The recipes used real butter, sugar, and flour, not a long list of chemicals and preservatives. Critically, there was no corn syrup overload. High-fructose corn syrup had not yet saturated the food supply. This less commercialized environment was also reflected in advertising. Food marketing to children was minimal, and there wasn't the constant, pervasive food advertising everywhere you looked. This created a different psychological relationship with food. Diet culture wasn't mainstream yet, and people didn't obsess over calories. The focus was on eating proper meals, not on counting every morsel. The social context of eating was also profoundly different. Meals were eaten at the table, not on the go, in the car, or in front of a screen. Eating was a social activity, not a distracted one. With no smartphones while eating, people were present, engaging in conversation, and paying attention to their food and their body's signals. This environment fostered a healthier mindset. With a slower pace of life overall, there was arguably less stress-related eating. People also had more consistent sleep patterns. Without the endless stimulation of screens and 24/7 connectivity, it was easier to wind down. The fact that television ended at night created a natural cutoff point for the day, encouraging earlier bedtimes. All these factors combined meant that people simply consumed fewer calories daily without realizing it. Thinness was a side effect, not a goal. It was the natural outcome of a lifestyle that was inherently balanced. In the 1970s, food was respected, not abused. Treats felt special precisely because they were rare, creating a sense of appreciation rather than entitlement. The constant societal pressure around body image was lower. While ideals of thinness existed, they weren't amplified 24/7 through social media feeds. This allowed people to trust their hunger cues more intuitively. They ate when they were hungry and stopped when they were full, without the confusing noise of diet trends and conflicting health advice. Overeating was socially discouraged. It was seen as gluttonous rather than a normal response to a stressful day. Furthermore, a sense of frugality meant leftovers were common and reused creatively in subsequent meals. Food waste was frowned upon, teaching a valuable lesson in resourcefulness and moderation. Ultimately, it was the lifestyle, not dieting, that kept people slim. They simply moved more, ate less, and didn't think about it. It wasn't a conscious choice to be healthy. It was the default setting of their world. This video isn't about nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It's about understanding what changed and what we might relearn from the past. Whether you grew up in the 70s or are just curious about how modern life reshaped our bodies, this video will make you see food, movement, and daily habits in a whole new way.